Raabia Hawa. She was appointed the Kenya Wildlife Service Honorary Warden by the Ministry of Forestry and Wildlife. She was selected to participate in a conversation with civil society hosted by President Barack Obama and was selected by his Young African Leaders Initiative. Raabia is also honored to be a Mandela Washington Fellow. Raabia is excited to come and meet with you all, so let's give her a big hand.
I'm short.
But powerful.
Thank you so much, Maureen, and everybody that put together this really, really important event. And I want to say thank you and really awesome work to Karthik and Geeta. We are continents apart, but we all love elephants. And I always tell people when I meet them that the difference between what's facing the African elephant and the Asian elephant is in Africa they die once, but in Asia they almost die a little every day, because one place they get poached for their tusks, but on the other hand they get really, really brutalized so that people can just use them for tourism and entertainment, and that is very, very wrong. So let's stop the death together. So thank you very much for what you're doing. I really appreciate your work. So I'll just tell you a little bit about my work and my journey into conservation, because it wasn't ever where I started off. I used to work in media before, so I used to be a radio presenter, and I also worked on television reading the news. But I always had an interest in wildlife conservation, and I used to use my platforms to raise awareness about the different organizations working in my country. Until one day when one of them invited me to go to the field and work with rangers, and I had no idea what I was getting myself into, or that it would suck me in, much like the tar pits. But funny that I'm here. But that was pretty much my journey. I went to the field within 15 minutes. I was still trying to fumble around fixing a tent. I'd never put a tent together in my whole life. And a ranger vehicle just rushed into camp and said, "We've got to go, we've just heard gunshots and we need to leave right now." And everyone jumps into the car, and I'm thinking, why are we going in that direction again? And then we reached this forest. It's called Dupoto Forest. It's in the Masai Mara ecosystem. And about a few minutes of walking, I came across my first poached elephant. And that really changed my life. I was standing there looking at an elephant that was still breathing her final breaths, and her face was completely cut off. They'd taken away her tusks, and they cut off her ear to be able to carry the tusks with. I couldn't just go back home and act like that never happened, or go back to my normal life. And from that point on, I made it my mission in life to do something about the situation. And I continued raising awareness about poaching in my country through my media platforms. Got me in a few scrapes, obviously, with people who did not want that happening, but I felt that it was the public's right of information to know what was happening to our elephants. I had a right to that information, and so my fellow Kenyan equally had that right. And in working with rangers for, at that time, I think it was about 4 or 5 years, I recognized that there were so many challenges that they were facing on the ground, but nobody really was aware about those challenges. No one really cared. To the world, a ranger was just a guy in a green uniform walking around the bush trying to save animals. They didn't really understand them or kind of put themselves to ground level and understand them as a fellow human being who has a family, who has children, who would like to go home every once in a while but cannot because he's stuck in the field. And so that's when really Walk with Rangers and my initiative was born. I walked with several of my family from Facebook, from Arusha in Tanzania to Nairobi in Kenya. It was over 200 miles. It took us about 15 days to complete the walk. But it really was us kind of marching to make a global statement about rangers and why their lives matter. In the subsequent years, I lost about 6 of my personal friends who were shot by poachers, and that drove me even further to try and make changes in certain pockets of my country where there isn't a lot of conservation attention, And that's what really our project is focused on currently, is to implement an anti-poaching unit in one of the remote regions of my country, and then hopefully expand that so that we're able to cover a wider area. It's a tricky place because it's close to the border with Somalia, so we have a lot of bandits coming in, rebel militias coming in, targeting elephant and other wildlife. In the last month alone, I have recovered over 86 snares, and that is last month counting the 2 weeks I've been in Kenya and the 1 week I've been here. I've conducted over 6 arrests and saved some small animals who were trapped in those snares. That's taken me, I don't know, more than 500 kilometers of walking distance, but when you're in the bush, that's the only way that you can really address the poaching issue, is by making sure that you have boots on the ground, because as much as you've got technology in the air, if there isn't somebody on the ground who's going to catch a poacher or take out a wire snare, then you're not really having an impact for wildlife. So that's what I've done in the last month. I'm going to be here for a couple more days, and then I will go right back and do the same thing. But you know, I want to say thank you to all of you, because you all make it possible for us to continue in the field. It's because of your support and your noise that you're making here that our work is getting just that little bit easier. You know, a ranger's life is very difficult. We work in the bush for 11 months out of the year. You can't see your family. Most of the time you can't even phone them because there's no mobile phone network where you are. Sometimes you don't even have access to clean drinking water, so you just need to drink whatever you find in a well somewhere. And you become prone to health hazards. But because we're so dedicated to protecting and saving our elephants and our other wildlife, there's really nothing else that we would ever do. The other day somebody asked me if I would like to move to America, and I said a very hard no, because I could not imagine my life living in a building. I'm so used to just my small tent in the middle of nowhere, being very close to wildlife and the sounds and the smells and the sights, and that's just become my haven almost. The only thing that kind of cracks that or shatters that is the sound of gunshots at night, or elephants trumpeting when somebody's shot a poison arrow into the herd, and those kind of sounds are very distressing, but we try and overcome that by continuing to give ourselves hope that we pull in from all of these energies that you all are providing for us. So I want to say thank you very much to all of you for that. My speech is right here, so I'm still in ranger mode. But one thing that I did want to talk about, since I'm referring to my handy speech here and my notes, is, you know, I'm sure some of you had followed the ivory burn in Kenya. In April 2016, we set alight over 105 tons of ivory and more than 5 tons of rhino horn. Some countries were very critical of Kenya doing that. They put a value to those items and said it's worth billions and billions of dollars and we could reinvest that into conservation. But I want to categorically state that I know not a single ranger who would have been happy to earn a salary off of that money, because we consider it blood money. Thank you. We would rather live on meager pickings than have lots of money that is derived from the very thing that we're trying to stop. And all of these actions that you're taking in this country and all around the world through the Global March Against Extinction are really critical in addressing the demand reduction side of things. We can't clap with one hand, is what we say in our culture. And so when we're working together, we'll really be able to hopefully stop this thing before it's too late. So again, a huge asante sana from all of us in Kenya, all my ranger teams, and thank you for really making it possible for us to continue our work. And I hope that you will continue to do that by spreading the word. You can obviously donate to support our various projects, but never stop marching is my message. So asante sana, and yeah, let's keep marching.